You're listening to another episode of Tap Outs and Touchdowns.
That's right, everybody. It's Football Wednesday, and you know what that means. Another live football episode of Tap Outs and Touchdowns. As always, it's your guy, Bully Rye, and to my proverbial right, even though it's to my left. It's on my screen, you're to the right, so, like, I don't know how it works. It's Banker Bill. Bill, what's up, bud?
What's happening, man? It is Football Wednesday. There's actually football going on now, like tonight. There's 2 bowl games tonight. I think one already played, so
yeah.
I hope you're not watching that and hanging out with us. It'll be more fun.
The last I checked, it was like Jacksonville State and somebody like that. Maybe
James. Yes, it's not great. James Madison, I think.
James Madison. I knew it started with a J. And then I forgot what's the other bowl game that goes tonight?
I don't know. It's terrible. They're not good. They're not good this time of year. But hang on, I'll look quick. They're not great games. There was one last night. West Virginia. Was it Kansas State? No, Memphis. It was Memphis? There was a ranked team. I think it ended up like 42-37, like it's a close game. Memphis, West Virginia last night. Right now, Western Kentucky plays James Madison. Kentucky. Oh, and California, UNLV. That could be kind of fun. UNLV coming off their Mountain West Championship loss to Boise State. 24th ranked team in the country. California at 6-6 out of the Big Ten going into the LA Bowl. So that one could be a little bit. That's actually kind of interesting. That starts at 9.
9 o'clock. So if you want to stay up late tonight, by all means. Quick point of contention. First of all, if you're watching the show live with us, join the conversation. Leave a comment wherever it is you're watching. We are live on Facebook, on YouTube, and on Instagram. I got Instagram to go live at the right time this week, but as I look at my Instagram feed, it's not showing a live video. So there it is. It just clicked on. So nevertheless, I will say that I just recorded an episode of The Cat Cave with no issues. And now I got a little internet icon. So, Bill, if we drop out in the middle of the show...
It's always an issue. It's always an issue. It's unbelievable.
I can't help the fact that
you're the host, right? So you're not the host of The Cat Cave. You just show up as like a person in the show.
I'm the host of The Cat Cave.
You are too?
I'm the host.
Oh, my
God.
I host,
yeah.
It's probably my fault.
Shows so much. Volleyball, I said, let's get out of the way. Bill, I apologize. I thought Miami would have caught Houston slipping last week.
Nope. Sorry. Didn't think so.
Yeah, I know. Like, I think it's because I'm still running on a computer that runs on Windows 8. Like, it's a really old computer.
Probably bad.
I mean, so much so that I think I finally figured out that's why I cannot get like Team Builder to work on college football online, where you can create your own team. I think that's what it is.
You need an operating system that was made in this decade, is what you're saying. Like that's.
I believe so.
Yeah, got it.
I don't think I think I got this computer in like. No, you're right. It was probably the early 2010s because that's a whole nother story. All right. Once again, if you're joining the show with us live tonight, leave a comment wherever it is that you're watching and join the conversation. But let's go ahead and get to it. And let's talk a little Homer's Corner, which is my favorite part of the week. And unfortunately, it's not a great conversation that I've got to have as my part of Homer's Corner this week. And that's because not only did the Detroit Lions lose to the Buffalo Bills this past weekend, they also lost 2 more key players on defense to potentially season-ending injuries. Aleem McNeil, star defensive lineman, he is out for the remainder of the year and the playoffs as he suffered a season-ending ACL tear, while cornerback Carlton Davis is out indefinitely with a fractured jaw. And I don't know if you've ever dealt with a broken jaw before. I personally have not. But knowing someone in college that did, I know that when you normally fracture your jaw, part of the healing process is to restrict movement, which means that they more than likely have to wire your jaw shut. And the guy that I knew that had to get his jaw wired shut lost a bunch of weight while he had his jaw wired shut because you can't eat solid foods. You can only drink so many protein shakes. And so I believe even if Carlton Davis would be able to return in a potential Super Bowl game, I don't know how effective and how in shape he's going to be. The bigger concern I have is that every single week it seems like the Detroit Lions lose somebody else on defense. I mean, it started weeks ago when the Lions played the Cowboys when they lost Aiden Hutchinson to a broken ankle. He is currently walking in a walking boot. I don't think they want to rush him, but the hope is that if the Lions do make the Super Bowl, that he might be able to return for that game. But that defense is a mash unit. The reason why South Carolina was 5-7 last season, people don't like to place blame on injuries. But if you look back at the 2023 South Carolina Gamecocks, they were on like third and fourth string offensive linemen. That's partially why Spencer Rattler was running for his life in his last year in Columbia. They also lost running back David Montgomery for the remainder of the year. And I'm trying to remember what was it a broken foot? Whatever it was, Montgomery. Oh, no, it was a torn MCL. Montgomery tore his MCL, finished the game on his torn MCL, and now he's done for the season. So now the injuries are not only trickling down on the defense, but they're trickling on the offense. And it's starting to concern me as a Lions fan because, you can only field so many backups. It can only be so many next men up before you're like, these guys aren't on par with the starters for, say, the Buffalo Bills or even right now the Minnesota Vikings. Trey Tolles wants to make a comment in the chat while we're talking about Homer's Corners and not football related. But how about them Gamecocks knocking off the Clemson Tigers in men's basketball, making their wins over Clemson this season in football, women's and men's basketball. And yeah, that game went to overtime. I didn't get to watch it because I was in an HOA meeting, but I think ESPN has it on demand, so I plan on watching it sometime this weekend. But shout out to Lamont Paris and the South Carolina Gamecocks men's basketball team, who I believe lost to like North Florida in their first game of the season, or have been able to bounce back and get some decent wins over some decent teams, including a ranked Clemson team this past weekend. Mama Frick also in the house. But let's get back to the Lions again. 12-2, they are tied with the Minnesota Vikings atop the NFC North. However, they do hold the tiebreaker over the Vikings, and it could very well come down to the last week of the season, where in Week 18, the Minnesota Vikings have to travel to Detroit and play the Lions in what could be not only a division-clinching game, but potentially a number one seed clinching game, depending on how the next 3 weeks go. So there it is. There's my Homer's Corner. Getting concerned about the Lions, and that's kind of just where I'm going to leave it. Bill, your Homer's Corner goes back to the world of college football, and I think that you're a little more caught up to date about what's going on here, but I'm really curious what you have to say about this fiasco going on at Marshall with their entire team trying to transfer to follow the coach down to Southern Miss.
We talked about this last week. Can I say something about the Lions, though?
Please.
I feel your pain, man. Last year, I felt like I had a really good shot with the Miami Dolphins to win at least something. Maybe win a playoff game. Let's just go there first. Injuries completely derailed the Miami Dolphins last year. Jalen Phillips, Bradley Chubb. I mean, everything that we had going on defense, dead. And we had to sign linebackers off the street going into the Kansas City playoff game. Justin Houston was one of them. I forget who the other. Bruce Irvin. Bruce Irvin played for the Dolphins in the playoffs. Does anybody know that? That's probably going to be a really cool, weird trivia question in the future. But anyway, so I feel your pain, man. It's brutal when you feel like you've got a shot at the Super Bowl and then just the injury bug, the football gods are not looking at you in favor, and it's rough. So I feel your pain, man. Anyway, back to the Marshall situation. We talked about this last week. We said that the Marshall team was entering the transfer portal as their coach has been hired by Southern Mississippi, and the players who went 9-3 this year and actually made the Independence Bowl, they decided they wanted to go with their coach. So we said there was a rumor that it was the entire team. It was actually not the entire team, Ryan. It was 25 players entered the transfer portal. So
only
half
25
of the starting
Bill?
roster. The whole starting, half of the roster.
Yeah.
No, it's about a third of the roster probably that actually dresses every week. I think there's like 83 or something they can dress every week. So you had quite a few players. Obviously, they're going in the transfer portal. Because of that, the team actually had to withdraw from the Independence Bowl. They cannot play Army. Army was going to be their opponent in the Independence Bowl, I believe, on December 29th. Guess who gets to play in that game? Louisiana Tech. Louisiana Tech finished 5-7 this year. They get to play in a bowl game. This is a disaster. I feel like I'm harping on the portal every single week. I tell Ryan, I hate the portal. Everything makes me angry about the portal. But this is like the worst situation we've heard of. almost as bad as the situation that's happening at Penn State right now, where their backup quarterback has now gone into the transfer portal as they get prepared to play in the college football playoff. Are you kidding me? That just happened. This kid could win the national championship, but knows he can't play next year because their starter has said, I'm coming back for my 5th season. So he wants to go play football. Can't blame him, but he's got to leave the team before he gets to play in the playoffs. Are you kidding me with this stuff? Why have we not fixed this? What is going on? And how come nobody that actually has any kind of power has stood up and said, look, we understand that there's an issue. We're going to do something about it this year so we can all stop dealing with this madness. Marshall cannot. Now, all those players that play on that team that were going to play in a bowl game, they're going to be able to tell their grandkids, I played in the Independence Bowl. I played in a bowl game after a successful season, can no longer do this because the stupid portal. It's unbelievable. These morons that run all of this stuff, these people that run college football have broken the system this bad, and they're doing nothing about it. It is disgusting. They should be fired and never allowed to run anything that anybody cares about ever again. It's ridiculous. That's all I have to say about that.
So real quick, Shannon over Podcast Mini, Shannon Smith says he wants to go back and talk Lions for a second. As a 49ers fan, he gets it with the injuries. But he also makes a comment about Marshall. He said he got what was coming to them. They could have given that man a new contract.
That's not fair.
He was winning consistently.
That's not fair. I'm not going to say that. I'm not going to say that. Listen, there's money considerations, things like that. He had those guys playing this year. It's not his fault. It's not their fault. They're going to look for a new coach, and it's fine. It's just that there should be no winter transfer portal. They should move it to the old. Did you know there's 2 transfer portals, Ryan? Did you know there's 2 windows? There's a winter transfer portal and there's a spring transfer portal. And guess what? As a player, you can transfer in both. And it happened last season. There was a player that transferred. I don't know where he was playing. He transferred to USC and only was there for 3 months, and he transferred back out in the spring. It's ridiculous. I can't even believe that we talk about this stuff, and it's like real life. You're like, really? You can do that? Yeah, you can do that. So like if NIL comes, so if this dude transfers and lands at a team, right? So say USC, and then we'll use Georgia again because I hate Georgia, and they have a lot of money. But if they come to him and go, hey, we want you to play for us. Well, in the spring transfer portal, he can transfer again. That's ridiculous. It's crazy. I mean, this is crazy. I actually got on Reddit this week because I'm addicted to this portal stuff and I hate it so much. And I don't remember what I searched, but there was a whole thread on Reddit about all of these college football fans that are basically swearing off college football. And these are the people that are on Reddit that are willing to like post. And they're swearing off college football and basically saying this, it's not important to me anymore because you can't get behind any team and care about anybody. And we know that that's happening. But here's people that are literally getting on the internet just to say that. That's terrible. How are we in this position? How are we continuing to be in this position?
One part of me like gets it. Like they sign up. Kids don't sign up to play for a school anymore. They sign up to play for a coach. And if the coach leaves, a lot of the players want to go. But like there has to be something in place to prevent this from happening. Like the transfer portal taking place prior to bowl season is outrageous.
Ridiculous.
Let's see.
And how come nobody had the foresight to see that this is a possibility? How come nobody said, you know what, if we let them transfer before a bowl game, they'll probably leave and not play for their team in a bowl game, screwing over their other teammates? How can nobody that is in power even thought of that? I can't even. The fact that they were incapable of thinking of that means that they are not capable of doing their jobs properly. They should not be in positions of power.
Listen, I'm not disagreeing with you. I mean, even Shannon Smith mentioned that if Quinn Ewers didn't want to go in the NFL, he could transfer out next year because Arch Manning is breathing down his neck. So
sure,
yeah, it's
and I actually looked up this week. Because I'm that guy that will read the opposing opinion as well. So I actually looked up reasons why people like the transfer portal, and some of them do make sense. If a kid doesn't feel like his school that he's currently committed to is a fit, then he gets to transfer, and that gives him what they call freedom of movement. And I understand that. If you don't feel like it's an academic fit, if you don't feel like it's a personality fit, if you don't feel like it's an athletic fit, fine. You get the transfer to another school. Here's the problem, Ryan. What is the point of going to college for most of these players? And don't say go to the NFL.
I mean, if you're going to look at the archaic view, you go to college to get an education so you can get a job once you graduate.
So you get an education. I hear the statistics are out there, and they didn't even quote the statistic because they didn't want to let the number out there. But the number of people after they transfer one time that graduate after one transfer is 68% of players graduate from that college after transferring one time. They didn't even list the number for the amount of people that transfer twice because it is so low. They just said most of them do not graduate if they transfer 2 times. If we know this already, why are we not putting a limit on the amount of transfers? I get it. Freedom of movement. One time seems legit, and you still want these kids to graduate. But once they transfer twice, most of those guys don't graduate. That is the reason right there that we should be closing this down. I know I did research this
listen,
week. I'm sorry.
They're going to have to regulate it. Whether the Big Ten and the SEC to get together to regulate on their own, something's going to have to change. I mean, the playoff in and of itself this year shows that there are drastic errors in the system itself. And so, yeah, it's Can
you believe you're put in a position that the backup quarterback at Penn State is in? Can you believe you're put in that position? Say you're going to South Carolina, but you want to play football and you're a sophomore. You're running out of eligibility. And you're in the college football playoff, and the quarterback that's keeping you from playing is coming back next season. And now you're looking at 1 year of eligibility to possibly play college football. And you want to play college football because it's important to you. You literally have to leave your team and your teammates in the middle of the college football playoff before it's even started with a legitimate chance to win a championship, even though we don't think Penn State is very good. You have to leave to go find a place to play so that you can actually play college football. This is ridiculous that we're talking about this.
But to your point, if there's a spring transfer portal, why not just play in the playoff in case something happens and he gets hurt, and now you get to play. Now you get time to shine, so then you can enter
because
the
most teams have made their plans. Most teams have made their plans. There are only really high level players that are getting picked off in the spring transfer portal. If you look at the statistics of what's actually happening, most of the players transfer in the winter portal. That shouldn't be happening. This is the one we're seeing right now, where all these players are leaving before the bowl games.
Well, I'm not going to disagree with you. It's an unfortunate situation that college football, it's got a major problem, and they're not anywhere close to fixing it. But I would like
to hear they admit the situation. The NCAA needs to come out and admit that it's completely broken and they need to do something about it. But they don't even do that. They just sit on their hands and just rake in the money.
Here's the problem. The NCAA had an opportunity to get ahead of this years ago.
Oh, yeah.
And they let it go to federal courts.
Why be proactive?
And the federal courts decided this is what
This is what Ryan's internet breaks. Sorry, your internet crashed for like a second. Are you there, Ryan? I think we may have lost Ryan. Ryan actually is having legitimate internet connection issues. And the picture that he's caught on right now is a perfect like Santa Claus look, I think. That'd be pretty
perfect.
Good.
Yeah, no.
There it is.
Listen,
if you get to see the picture, you have to go back and watch.
No,
you have to go back and watch the picture you got caught on.
If you're watching on Instagram, I'm removing the feed to try to end some bandwidth. Again, sorry about that freeze. Here's the deal. You talk about like schools that have been in trouble in the past for lack of institutional control. That's what the NCAA is dealing with right now. The lack of their own institutional control. And here we are with a total cluster of college athletics, and it's not going to.
And not to finish off Homer's Corner on a really down note, but the amazing part about this, Ryan, is, and I know Smitty said that they had it coming to him, but Marshall, they're actually talking about fining or penalizing Marshall in some way for having to pull out of the bowl because all the players transferred because the coach left. Like it's there. I mean, Smitty might think it's Marshall's fault. I'm going to say no. There's money considerations, things like that. They weren't willing to pay him that amount of money. Marshall, I don't know what Marshall's financial situation is, right? But at the same time, can you believe that this is the problem that the NCAA caused with their ridiculous transfer portal, and now they're going to punish a team for being victims of it? That's ridiculous.
Well, I'll say that South Carolina landed a couple of really, really talented guys.
Oh, I knew we would have to hear about it. My team has been so quiet, it's insane. They landed a punter.
Oh, sweet. I mean, a former 5-star defensive lineman that signed with Texas A&M transferred to South Carolina today. So a big win considering that Kyle Kennard, who we're going to talk about here in a second, is the only major name that's opted out of the South Carolina bowl game. But he won 2 of the most prestigious defensive awards in college football this season. And he's probably going to be a first-round draft pick in this year's NFL draft. So those that's kind of understandable. He's not playing for a national championship, and he only played at South Carolina 1 year, and he is beloved by Gamecock fans for the year that he did give us. So sometimes the transfer portal giveth, and the transfer portal taketh away. So there's really at the transfer portal.
You guys
Pedro,
are doing well. I mean, that's fine.
Yeah, Pedro in the chat. Good to see you again, Pedro. It's been a while.
Pedro.
Imagine being a Florida State fan. We took the year off. I'm proud of Carolina this year, though. I appreciate that.
I enjoyed it.
All right, let's stick with in the realm of college football. Let's talk about college football's postseason awards that have been handed out. Listen, at the end of the day, it was basically the Ashton Jeanty, Travis Hunter show with all the awards that they racked up. I said I was going to talk about Kyle Kennard. He won the Chuck Bednarik Award. Bednarik, thank you. Bednarik. And I've never been able to pronounce these names, but he also won the Bronco Nagurski Award as the defensive player of the year. So Kyle Kennard, a Gamecock that basically was named like the unanimous college football defensive player of the year, which is a huge thing, considering that I don't think a lot of people were saying his name last year when he was at Georgia Tech. Obviously, again, we talked about being the Travis Hunter, Ashton Jeanty show. They racked up the Maxwell, the Walter Camp, the Doak Walker. You've got the quarterback of the Davey O'Brien, went to Miami Hurricanes quarterback Cam Ward. Although the Johnny Unitas Golden Arm Award went to Shedeur Sanders. Don't ask me how that happened. I think at this rate, I think we need to start talking about Deion Sanders on the level of Don King and the way that he goes about promoting his players.
Not just promoting.
I think he willed Shedeur and Travis Hunter all these awards because, I mean, listen, Travis Hunter did things that a lot of college football players would not be able to do. Let's be clear. Playing both sides of the ball, playing both at a decently high level. I mean, there's a reason why he won some of those awards. Like, at this point, I don't think we're ever going to see a running back win the Heisman Trophy again. Like, what is it going to take, Bill? I think Ashton Jeanty should have won the Heisman. Let's be clear. If you have been living under a rock, Travis Hunter won the Heisman Trophy, along with all the other postseason awards that he received. But Ashton Jeanty had over 2,000 rush. I mean, Barry Sanders-like numbers. Like, what is it going to take for a running back to win the Heisman, Bill? Like, are they going to have to, like, this is going to be a sore subject, and I don't mean for it to be like gross, but like, is he going to have to save somebody's life on the sidelines to be considered for a Heisman? Like, I don't know as a running back what you have to do to win the Heisman. It makes no sense to me.
To be fair.
Yeah,
exactly.
To be fair.
He did run up against a player that was playing both ways and playing both ways well this year. I think that's the issue. That's something we haven't seen. And I don't know how long. I don't know when the last time a really good player played both ways.
Desmond Johnson, maybe? Not Desmond Johnson. Desmond Howard. Why can't I say his name?
Desmond Howard. You're thinking of Rod Woodson.
Not Rod Woodson.
Charles Woodson. You're thinking of Charles Woodson.
Well,
he played some offense. He played some offense. He did not play offense well. He played some offense. He was a fantastic cornerback. But he only had 7 interceptions. I say only. He had 7 interceptions the year he won the Heisman as a cornerback. Like that's they consider they gave it to a cornerback. I think that's the issue. But I think
we'll get there, Volley Polly. Sorry, Bill. We'll get there, Volley Polly.
I'm reading his comment too. Yeah. I think that's probably what happened this year is that everybody went, "Ooh, we haven't seen this in a while." I wasn't alive the last time we saw this. That deserves the Heisman. I think that's what kind of happened. If you did that, you're an idiot. No offense. Maybe some offense. Take offense. If you did that, you're an idiot. If you didn't think Ashton Jeanty was the best player in college football this year, stop watching the game because you don't know what you're watching.
Earlier in this season on the show, I made an argument that the AP poll is meaningless because you can have a guy who has his own personal agenda and refuses to rank your team regardless of whether you're 1-10 or 12-0. As was the case of an Ohio State beat writer who did not rank South Carolina until the second to last week in the season. And at that point, only put us at 19 in his poll. I don't believe that the media should be voting for the Heisman. I think the only people that should be voting on the Heisman are current college football head coaches and former Heisman Trophy winners.
Oh.
I don't think anybody else has a leg to stand on. I don't care if you played college football and now you're a reporter. I don't care if you don't have any ties to a certain team or to a certain school. I think they need to take the press aspect out of any sort of award voting. Like, you can have an Associated Press, like award season, all that stuff. Do what you want to do. But, or the USA Today, you can have your USA, like if it's not a coach's poll, like have your USA Today, like a postseason awards, whatever. Because we have like 4 different All-American teams. And now if you get All-American on every single list, you're a unanimous All-American, right? But like, there are going to be people who have alliances with people, with players, whatever the case is, and it's going to skew their opinion to the person that they want to win. And I think at this point, like, the less people to vote on it, the better, because it can't be misconstrued. What are there, like 2,000 voters for the Heisman Trophy, something like that? I think that they need to get away from all these different people getting to vote on it. And the people who get to watch the game every week, the coaches who get to game plan for these players, the coaches who get to who scout these players, and the players who won the Heisman themselves, who know what it takes to win the Heisman, they're the ones whose opinions that matter to me. I don't, and with all due respect, like, I don't care what John Q. reporter over here feels about Cade Klubnik or Lenore Sellers. Like, I don't care what you're the Ohio State beat writer thinks about the Michigan wide receiver who's leading the country in receiving yards. Like, I want the people who are the most objective as they can be, because sure, maybe if it's between Travis Hunter and Ashton Jeanty, maybe all the Big 12 schools vote for Travis Hunter because they want to bring the Heisman to the Big 12. Okay, that's fine, but the SEC, the ACC, the Big 10, all those coaches are going to have to vote. So that's the frustrating part to me. We got to read a couple of comments out of the chat. Podcast Mini says, I wanted Jeanty to win as well, but this Heisman race was tough. Separately, these two would have won a Heisman in another year. I don't disagree with that. Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you got a chance to take a look at the full winners, and I'm not going to announce all the full winners. If you haven't looked them up.
I have. Here's something that's crazy to me, Ryan. Hunter wasn't even a finalist for the Jim Thorpe Award. Wasn't even a finalist. So you're basically saying, well, he's not one of the top 3 cornerbacks in.
That's all right, dude. That's all right.
That's okay.
Deion Sanders.
But he won the
Bolitnikoff trophy.
But he won the Bolitnikoff. Exactly.
Deion Sanders will give him his trophy.
Yeah.
He'll give him his trophy.
Delegitimizing college football, one minute at a time.
Yeah.
I still haven't done a home visit on a recruiting visit. Let's talk about a popularity contest. Ridiculous. He wasn't a finalist for the Jim Thorpe Award. Why did he win the Bolitnikoff? Why did Travis Hunter get put as the number 1 wide receiver in college football? Why? Somebody tell me why. If his quarterback was so darn good, how come he didn't put up? He had 1,100 yards receiving.
His stat line.
He was only top 5 in one stat category.
Yeah.
Touchdowns.
He
wasn't even in the top 200 in yards per reception.
It's
top 200. How did this man win the best receiver? He should have not even been in the finals. They shouldn't even talk to him about it.
Shouldn't have been in the conversation.
Ridiculous.
I don't know who should have won it, but like, and listen, in fairness, like, I'm not trying to delegitimize the athlete and the football player that
you
Travis
don't have
Hunter
to.
is.
You don't have to delegitimize the Heisman Award because the people that voted on it just did. That's the line we should draw, Ryan. You know who should vote on it? The people that voted for Travis Hunter should never be allowed to vote again. Everybody else can stay. That's what should happen.
In fairness, though, like, we're going to get to it in a second. I also think that, like, he might be the most talented college football player in the country, and that's why they gave him the Heisman.
He's the guy that can run and jump the best. Good job.
Sure.
That gives you the Heisman? Okay. It's a new world. But the guy that's the best player in football, here's the other thing. Do this comparison one time, and this is how you should have done it, and this is how they should have voted. If you switched them on their teams, how do their teams do? If you put Ashton Jeanty on Colorado, they're playing in the college football playoff. If you put Travis Hunter on Boise State, they lose to UNLV in the Mountain West Championship game.
I don't know. Outside of Lamar Jackson, I don't know of another Heisman Trophy winner to go to a team that didn't at least compete for a national championship. Is that fair to say?
The last Heisman Trophy winner that played on a team that had 3 losses or more was Lamar Jackson in 2016.
Yeah, exactly
and
what
he
I
was
said.
He was transcendently good.
Yeah.
He was top 3, I think, at the time in all measured stat categories for quarterbacks.
I love you.
And again, numbers. Dude, I've done my research this week because everything pissed me off last weekend.
That's awesome.
Again, Travis Hunter was not top 5 in any stat category except for touchdowns. And he won the number 1 wide receiver and best player in college football. It's ridiculous. Deion Sanders did this. I blame him.
Real quick, because we got to get to some NFL talk here. We're 30 minutes into the show. We were going to talk about bowl season. We kind of talked about that at the beginning of the show. I will mention there are some games coming up this weekend when it comes to this weekend and later on this week. You've got Georgia Southern at Sam Houston in the New Orleans Bowl. You've got Ohio versus Jacksonville State Friday at noon. And then Friday at 3:30, your Florida Gators take on Tulane in the Gasparilla Bowl.
I'll be at work.
Oh, just throw it on a computer, man.
Yeah, I know.
This is the time of year when my old job, when I worked in an office, we'd find ways to run it on the computer.
I'm going to a Christmas concert Friday night, so I can't even watch the game. It's kind of a bummer.
Is it Trans-Siberian Orchestra or what's the
no?
concert?
It's I don't even want to tell you. It's like a backwoods. The towns we live by. It's out in Pelzer.
Ooh.
Yeah.
I wish I had something nice. So yeah, y'all are gonna have a great time.
Yeah.
But then the rest of the games are college football playoff games. Obviously next week, because we're not going to have a show next week. Spoiler alert. You've got Coastal and UTSA in the Myrtle Beach Bowl. A couple other games, none that matter really. I wanted to kind of rush through this because we're going to pick the college football playoff games. We're going to talk about it here for a second, but we can skip over that. I do want to bring up the question that Volley Polly posed a minute ago, so hopefully he's still here. And he said, not to take away from y'all's topic, but what are your thoughts about Michael Vick taking the head coaching job over at Norfolk State? And it was announced earlier this week that they were courting Michael Vick to be the next head coach in a college football program. There has been an influx. There has been a movement of former players being named as head coaches without really having coaching experience. Like Michael Vick has been on Fox for the last couple of years. Like I haven't seen him coach anybody. Teddy Bridgewater just won a state championship in his first season as a head coach for a high school down in Florida. So congratulations, Teddy Bridgewater.
I know the statistics of like what Teddy Bridgewater did. He won his championship game 41-0.
Yeah.
What? That's a high school championship game to win, to just blank the other team. Like, sorry, you even showed up. Like, we're just going to blow you out and be done with it. I think they outscored the teams in the playoffs like 281-12 or something like that. Something ridiculous. Teddy Bridgewater has done a phenomenal job coaching.
Bridgewater coached one season and did all that, and nobody's talking about him getting coaching jobs in college. But Michael Vick is about to get at Norfolk State. Now, granted, Norfolk State is like an FCS program, but like, what are your thoughts on this influx of former NFL players, of former college football greats that are being courted to be head coaches and assistant coaches, both in the collegiate and the NFL level?
I mean, it's a little odd that they didn't have any coaching experience in the past. However, where do you start? Like as an understudy at some point of somebody brings you on and you learn whatever. The odd part is they become head coaches. I mean, your favorite football team, Dan Campbell, is an ex-player. So these guys learn systems. They learn how things work, obviously from coaches the entire time they're in any level of football. So they've been around coaches before. They just haven't been on the other side of the whistle, right? So I do find it odd that they're getting head coaching jobs, but it's not like he got a head coaching job at Notre Dame. He got a head coaching job at Norfolk State. So if he flames out, I mean, he'll just go back to Fox. Like, it's not going to be a big deal. Yeah. But I mean, do you want him to flame out? No, we want to see him do well, right? Michael Vick was a cool personality and a really good football player, and it was enjoyable to watch him play when we were younger. So I would like to see him do well as a coach, and then we'll get to see him with gray hair. That'll be fun.
PETA may not like to see him be a successful
coach. Don't even. Why would you? I was going to say something like he would definitely bring out the fight in those dogs.
Oh, don't you say that, you son of a gun!
I was going to say you said it though. I wasn't even going to bring it up.
Yeah. All right, let's get into some NFL talk. I mean, it's sort of NFL talk. It's kind of a combination. We talked about some of the best players in college football, and now as the NFL season has 3 more weeks of games to go, as we wind down towards the playoffs, we can start kind of discussing who might be the top pick in this year's NFL draft and speculate on quarterbacks and where they might go and how they might translate into the NFL. We've seen a lot of quarterbacks come out in the last few years. I mean, this year alone, we've got Bo Nix and Caleb Williams and Jaden Daniels. By the way, before we start talking a little more about this, I want to bring up a point that we talked really bad about Anthony Richardson last season. And we talked about the fact that he is extremely inaccurate. And people are finally starting to pick up on it because I think it was last week or the week before. They talked about the fact that he stands in the pocket. He's underthrowing this guy. He's overthrowing that guy. Like we saw that in college. We knew that was going to happen. And all of a sudden, look out. The Colts are not good anymore. Like it was a flash in the pan. They figured him out like we expected them to do. And I mean, you can't get much worse than getting benched because you wanted to check out a game because you're tired and lose your job to Joe Flacco for a few weeks, only to come back and just not be good. So anyway, we talked about the Heisman Trophy winner and the runner-up. I don't know if Ashton Jeanty, granted he put up some gaudy numbers. It wasn't against, let's call it SEC, Big Ten.
Don't say it. Tier. Don't say it. I have an argument.
About why I don't think he's going to be a
no about gaudy numbers against his opponents. 192 yards and 3 touchdowns against Oregon. Let's not talk about it.
Okay, that's fair. However, he's an undersized back. And I don't know how that will translate into the NFL, considering the fact that these guys get banged up every year. I mean, Nick Chubb just broke his foot. Like he's out for this. He's out for the rest of the season. David Montgomery has been a road warrior, has been a warrior for the Detroit Lions. He finished last week's game with a torn MCL. He's done. There have been so many injuries to so many different positions in the NFL, specifically with running back. I'm not sure if he holds up. That being said, I never expected him to go number 1 overall in the draft anyway. The question now becomes if the Raiders, who are right now slotted to get the first overall pick, it's sort of been like hinted that that's where Deion Sanders wants Shedeur Sanders to go.
Who cares?
But Travis Hunter, I believe, is the most talented player in this draft class. So,
well, I want to ask you that question. As an above average wide receiver, where do you see him playing? What side of the ball do you see him playing in the NFL? Because he's not going to be able to play both sides. He'll get killed.
He wants to play both sides. And I think if he winds up somewhere like Dallas, he could wind up playing both sides. I mean, I still think there's a possibility that Mike McCarthy doesn't get a contract extension at the end of the year and Deion Sanders leaves to go coach in Dallas, in which case he can potentially get a Travis Hunter and let his son go play for Vegas and eventually trade Dak for Shedeur to take him down in Dallas. I don't know how that would look. But I can't answer that question. I think even though he wasn't a finalist for the defensive back award, I feel like he would make a better NFL defensive back than he would a wide receiver. Like, I feel like, yeah, he'd be a talented wide receiver, but he's not Marvin Harrison Jr. He's not a Mike Evans. He's not those kind of guys.
But he's the best player in college football.
He's the most talented. I don't know.
Weird how the holes just start opening up everywhere. It's weird. Anyway, in the mock drafts that I'm seeing, Ryan, he isn't even the first wide receiver taken off the board in some of them, including CBS's latest mock draft, as they have, and I can't say his first name, Ted Tyroa McMillan. Tyroa McMillan. It's a tough one. Arizona. He is a wide receiver, 6'5", 212 pounds, big dude, more of an NFL type player. They have him going before Travis Hunter. Travis Hunter actually goes 5th to the Panthers. Yeah. Look at you. Look at you. Just went, oh, don't do that to me. Like, yeah, because
only because like I don't know what side of the ball they need him more on. I mean, rookie first rounder Xavier Legette just went down with a groin injury. His season's probably over with. I don't know if they bring back Adam Thielen because he dealt with injuries the first half of the season and he's been up and down since he came back into the lineup. But like the defensive backs got torched by Cooper Rush last week. So like I wouldn't mind if Travis Hunter fell to 5 and the Carolina Panthers drafted him there. I think they'd be getting a steal. My concern would be how do they convince him that he's only going to play one side of the ball? And two, if Deion Sanders is going to be an advocate for his players, a la Paul Heyman, if you're a wrestling fan watching the show, if he's going to be an advocate for both Shedeur Sanders' son and Travis Hunter, his Heisman Trophy winning trophy kid, like he's going to do everything he can to make sure they don't wind up in a franchise that is going to set them up for failure. I don't know why they think that Vegas is set up for success, but by all means, do you. But the Carolina Panthers have not been a competent organization since before David Tepper took over ownership. Now, they look great at times this season. I mean, they went to the wire against the Chiefs and the Eagles, but then this past week, they got blown out by Cooper Rush and the 5-8 Dallas Cowboys, where we saw Bryce Young regress and throw interceptions and get sacked 6 times. So, yeah, I mean, I like the prospect of him coming in there to being a playmaker, like a la like the Taysom Hill effect in New Orleans. But I mean, I don't know. I mean, I still think he should be the number 1 pick. But depending on who's got the pick, if Vegas has the pick, I think Shedeur Sanders is going to be number 1 pick.
Well, right now it sits as the Giants.
The Giants taking Sanders?
No, the Giants sitting number 1.
Who does the mock draft have the Giants taking number 1 overall?
I'm looking at CBS's right now, but the other ones that I've seen they concur. They're saying Cam Ward number 1.
The Giants are just so lost without Eli Manning. They're just so lost.
They were pretty lost with Eli Manning. It was great defenses that made those teams, and then Eli Manning playoff performances that brought him to the Super Bowl, win Super Bowls. But Eli Manning was a pretty average NFL quarterback until he got into the playoffs, and they had great defenses. But I think Cam Ward, I think that'll be interesting. He's not a huge guy. He has an amazing arm, but he seems to know football really well. I think he's going to be an interesting prospect. I think it'll be fun to watch him. I'm not sure. We like to try to pick quarterbacks here, and I've said somebody kind of taught me a process of picking quarterbacks, and it's not about the quarterbacks being good. It's whether or not you only get so many per year, right? And then that averages out over the course of years. It's usually one really good one, and then everybody else kind of just washes out. If you get a year like the Tua Tagovailoa, Joe Burrow, Justin Herbert, that year where you get excess good ones, you lose good ones in other rounds. So last year, you ended up with a pretty good quarterback draft. Bo Nix looks pretty solid. Who else is decent? Caleb Williams, as much as we like to poop on him on the show, actually has pretty decent stats. He's only thrown 5 picks all year. His passer rating is decent.
They're eliminated from the playoffs, and even Dan Orlovsky said out of all the rookie quarterbacks that are still playing right now, he is the one that looks least developed and the least grown in his through his first season.
Well, Jaden Daniels looks fantastic.
Looks great. And we by the way, we both called that. We both said of all the quarterbacks in the draft, Jaden Daniels is the one that we believed in the most.
I called CJ Stroud as well.
Well,
I know I've got it rolling right now.
Read between the lines, Bill. Read between the
lines. Drake May actually has decent statistics when you look at it. It's as a rookie, his passer rating is I think right around 88. Not bad. You know who had a good passer rating as a rookie? Gardner Minshew had a 92.5 or 92.7 or so. Yeah, I believe that or not. Anyway, point is, this might be a draft where you really don't get much quarterback-wise. And unfortunately for those quarterback-starved teams like the Giants, like the Raiders, that are supposed to pick 1, 2 in the draft, and they both pick either Cam Ward or Shedeur Sanders interchangeable. Let's see what happens here. Neither one of these guys might pan out. It's just the way it works.
You like the prospect of Quinn Ewers coming out?
I don't think Quinn Ewers, the last time I've seen his prospect rating is pretty far down, so I don't care.
I feel like he would be a really good pro stock quarterback.
No, not feeling him.
I
feel like there should have been a situation. I feel like this was his year to show that he was going to be good.
He got banged up.
He's just not there yet, man. He's just not there yet. Patrick Mahomes has a limp every single year. He gets killed every single year. Patrick Mahomes puts his body on the line. I like to say that. Whatever. Tough guys are tough guys. Quinn Ewers is not one of them, and he had an opportunity this year, and he did not seize the moment. I don't feel good about a guy if he's going to come and go pro, he's going to need some years. I mean, we know that Geno Smith took like 10 years to turn into a good quarterback. Maybe that's Quinn Ewers. I have no idea, but I don't think he's ready.
I was going to talk about the Falcons when we talk about some of the teams that are in the playoff hunt. The Falcons this week decided to bench their Kirk Cousins, the guy they spent a lot of money for in the offseason, and the guy that they were penalized for tampering with to get him out of Minnesota and in Atlanta. They're benching him to start rookie quarterback Michael Penix Jr. Do you see a situation where the Falcons find a trade partner and trade away Kirk Cousins at the end of this season?
No, because they're paying him too much. Nobody's going to take that contract.
There's a lot of teams that are paying their quarterbacks too. Daniel Jones is a prime example. The New York Giants are paying
37-year-old guy. No.
If they're a quarterback away from being a playoff contender, you don't think there's a team that would take a chance on Kirk Cousins
after this year?
3 more years. Well, he's had a bad stretch of games. Let's be honest. But beginning
after
of the season,
this year, probably not. I don't think they're going to take on that contract. What if
the Falcons eat most of the contract like the Giants did with Daniel Jones?
Yeah,
the Bills did it with Ryan Fitzpatrick years ago.
Cash considerations, yeah. I mean, that could happen, but I mean, what are they going to get for him? A 7th rounder? Like, you're not going to give anything for Kirk Cousins right now because they just want to they want to unload him anyway. So let him cut him, and then try to sign him.
Get a third.
A third? Who's going to pay a third for Kirk Cousins right now?
Somebody desperately in need of a quarterback.
What NFL are you looking at right now?
I mean, let's go through the teams. I mean, the Kirk Cousins is better than Aaron Rodgers right now.
But are you going to take on that? Well, never mind. That's the Jets. Yeah, the Jets, they're the wild card in that situation. Of course they would do something stupid like that. Who else is really starved? Look, usually it's the Cleveland with high draft picks, right?
The Cleveland Browns, but they've got to find a way to maybe they just swap Kirk Cousins for Deshaun Watson and see what happens. I think Watson's from Georgia.
I just don't see the teams that really need a quarterback doing this. I really don't. I just don't. And there's nobody else. There's no other team in the NFL right now that's really, really needs a quarterback other than those 3, maybe 4 teams.
I mean, so you talked about the Giants and the potential for them drafting Cam Ward.
Yeah.
You don't see a prospect where they're able to go and get Kirk Cousins, draft Cam Ward, let Cam Ward sit for a year behind Kirk Cousins?
No.
Like the Falcons tried to do with Michael Penix Jr.?
No, I think Cam Ward is your starter in New York. It's either going to be Cam Ward or Shedeur Sanders. That's going to be the starter in New York next year.
So are you saying that the days of Kirk Cousins being a starting NFL quarterback are over?
I hate to say that because up until this season, I mean, he has had a really bad year. There is not there. He has shown magic.
He's had a bad month. He's had a bad month.
Really bad month, but his year was not good. I drafted Kyle Pitts because I thought he would go off this year with Kirk Cousins throwing the ball around the yard, and that has not been all that good. No, he was good for like 6 weeks, and then Kirk Cousins is really falling off the table. So I think that's going to listen, man. There are not a lot of teams in the NFL right now that don't feel like they're at least they either have a youthful quarter because this past draft filled a lot of needs for a lot of teams that still believe in their quarterbacks. You have 4 rookies right now that people believe are starters in the NFL with the Patriots, the Broncos, and obviously the Commanders, they know, and the Bears. They know that their rookie quarterbacks are starters in the NFL. That's so far. So you don't have a bunch of teams that are looking for an old veteran right now. And I just don't think Kirk Cousins, why would you trade for that giant contract?
Again, you don't trade for the contract. You trade for the player. You make Atlanta eat most of the salary cap. And you go yourself a playoff contending quarterback. I mean,
I don't know. He's still never won Super Bowls. He has a reputation for failing in the playoffs.
That's true.
I mean, I just don't. I don't see it.
Well, let's keep that thought after a minute because we're going to talk about some of the teams that are in the playoff. We think might be able to have a shot to make the playoffs. But let's talk about the Buffalo Bills. I mentioned in Homer's Corner that they were able to knock off the Lions 48-42 at Ford Field last week. They got off to a quick start, 14-0, and sort of kept scoring. And that's what they had to do to beat the Detroit Lions. Despite having a worse record than the Buffalo Bills, than the Kansas City Chiefs, are the Buffalo Bills the best team in football right now?
No, I don't. Their defense is really suspect. They gave up. How many yards did Goff throw for? 494?
An ungodly. It's the second week in a row that a quarterback has gone for over 400 yards and multiple touchdowns and lost a game.
5. He's the first quarterback in the history of the NFL to throw for 490. Well, I think it was over 450 yards, but I think he threw for almost 500 and 5 touchdowns and not throw an interception and lose. That's how good your defense is right now. But at the same time, That's how good the Bills are on offense right now. I mean, the week
Yeah.
before against the Rams just outscored them. But yeah, the Bills are giving up 40 some points a game over the last 2 weeks. That's ridiculous. Their defense is not playing well enough right now to be the best team in football. The good news is the Chiefs, while they're really good on defense, don't play offense very well.
Which is crazy.
They struggled in Cleveland, right? Exactly. With Patrick Mahomes. Patrick Mahomes is not having a great season. So
Isaiah Pacheco's healthy again. Rasheed Rice is going to be coming back anytime now.
Well, that will help. That will definitely help. But I mean, of course, it's going to be for playoff time when the Chiefs really need to make it happen, right? But at the same time, the Bills, they do not go into Kansas City and win playoff games. They need to somehow figure out how to overtake Buffalo in order to make this happen. I'm sorry, the overtake Kansas City. Yeah, Buffalo has to overtake Kansas City to go into the, to have that game be played in Buffalo, or else it's going to be a problem. I just don't see that them even getting out of the AFC right now. Their defense is not playing well enough.
So having said that, I mean, if you look at the other teams in the NFL, you've got the Eagles, the Lions, and I'm trying to get to the standings now. The Eagles, the Lions, and the Vikings all at 12-2 in the NFC. If you look over in the AFC side, you've got the Bills at 11-3, the Steelers at 10-4, the Texans at 9-5, and your Kansas City Chiefs are 13-1. So record-wise, you'd have to say Kansas City is the best team in football, but basically, like judging off the eye test, knowing what we know about the Detroit Lions and their injuries that they're dealing with right now, who in your mind is the best team in football?
The Eagles. I think the Eagles are the best team. Yeah. Yeah, the Eagles just beat the Steelers, and the Steelers obviously one of the best teams in the AFC. We're looking at them possibly contending for an AFC title. The AFC is terrifying. I think it is every year. I think it's, but I mean, you're looking at the Chiefs, Bills, Steelers. The Texans are 9-5. They're still not dead.
And the Ravens.
And the Ravens, actually, the other team. That's the other team. They're scary too. So the AFC is terrifying. I think you have a hierarchy of about 3 really good teams in the NFC, and maybe the Packers. I don't feel the Commanders. I think the Commanders are probably 1 year away, and the Packers are a pretty good team, but they got beat by Detroit. So, 2 weeks ago. So I think that kind of eliminates them. But yeah, I mean, there's like 8 teams that can win the Super Bowl this year. But right now, I think if you're going to bet on one team, I think you got to look at the Eagles. I think the Eagles are playing complementary football on both sides of the ball. And as long as Saquon stays healthy, they're super dangerous.
What a dumb move. I know we're beating a dead horse with that, but the Giants signing Daniel Jones to cut him and lose Saquon in the process. What a bunch of I always talk about David Tepper being the worst owner in sports. That might be the worst owner in sports to let that happen.
Owner, GM. If the GM isn't already fired, which I think he is, it's got to be, then that's just so foolish. So terrible.
Well, we didn't really get into this a whole lot last week. So let's talk about it really quickly before we get into podcast pick'ems and get out of here for a couple weeks. There are some teams that are sort of on the outside looking in that haven't been mathematically eliminated from the playoffs quite yet. Yeah. We're talking about the 6-8 Dolphins and Bengals, the 6-8 Colts, the 7-7 Falcons and Cardinals. Are there any teams that stand out that currently are on the outside looking in for a playoff spot that you think have a legitimate shot to kind of step up and make a playoff, albeit in a wild card position or otherwise, that you think might actually have a chance to make a run in the playoffs?
In the AFC, I like the Bengals, only because Joe Burrow can get it done if he dyes his hair properly and has the right girlfriend and nobody breaks into his house during the game. Wow, does he have a lot of drama happening in his life? But I think he can get it done. Jamar Chase, that could be a scary team. And of course, I think low-hanging fruit in the NFC, the team that's on the outside looking in right now, they only fell out of it this week because they had a bad game. The Seahawks. Seahawks have played, they're up and down. They're super inconsistent. Zach Charbonnet goes crazy 2 weeks ago. Obviously had an okay game, but they lost this week. I think the Seahawks have a shot getting back in. They're tied with the Rams. The Rams are making a run, but the Seahawks beat the Rams. So it's going to be fun, man. This is what the NFL is about. This is what we get excited about at the end of the season. See these teams trying to fight for the playoffs. And a lot of times, I think in this case, it really doesn't matter. I think we have a hierarchy of about 8 teams. Who cares who really gets? I think that's why I said to you when we were going to talk about this. Are these teams just getting in to be fodder, just to be thrown up and sacrificed by the teams that are actually really good in the conferences? So I think that's probably what's happening. But yeah, I think that those 2 teams can probably get in. The issue is who they're going to knock out. I think the Chargers are probably the weakest team. Can you believe the Broncos? The Broncos are actually they're 9-5 and legit right now.
I can't stand that guy. I cannot stand.
I have a buddy that's a Broncos fan, and like week 1, he said Bo Nix is legit. And I was like, no, come on, man. We haven't seen anything, right? And he says, we're going to the playoffs. He's legit.
Sean Payton can
I can't even believe he's right at this point. I'm like, holy crap, you are going to the playoffs.
If you'd asked me preseason how the NFC West was going to play out, the one thing I would not tell you was that the 49ers would be sitting in last place right now in the West at 6-8. I mean, unfortunately, in the NFC, there's only been 3 teams that have been eliminated from the playoffs, with the Panthers, the Giants, and the Bears all eliminated in the NFC.
A lot of people had the Bears. Remember, they had the Bears in the playoffs because they had all those signs and the wide receivers and all that, and they had Caleb Williams as their quarterback. And you and I laughed. Yeah. Well, who's still laughing?
Yeah, I mean, listen, the NFC South is wide open. Outside of the Panthers, anybody can still win that division. Hopefully, Michael Penix Jr., for the Falcons fans' sake, can sort of give them that spark that they need to make the push. But with Mike Evans healthy again and the emergence of Bucky Irving and Baker Mayfield doing Baker Mayfield things down in Tampa Bay, I mean, they're sitting at the one spot right now in the NFC South. But the Falcons are right behind them at 7-7, so anything can really happen. You're going to get 3 teams out of the NFC North in the playoffs. You're going to have either the Lions or Vikings win the division, and the Packers are going to make it. And so, more than likely, because how many wild cards make it now? 3. So that leaves 1 spot for the Commanders or whoever finishes second place in the NFC West. So, yeah, like you said, it's interesting to see how it's going to play out as far as the AFC goes. I think you still got to look right now at Bills, Steelers, Ravens, Texans, obviously Chiefs, and then I think you might get 3 teams out of the AFC West. I think the Broncos and Chargers can both make it out of that division. But then again, like that, they're not going to kick the Ravens out at that point. So, yeah, to your point, I think the Chargers might be on the outside looking in, and I hate it because I really thought the Dolphins were going to make a run, but something went wrong in Miami this year, and they've got some figuring out to do in the offseason, or they might be making some changes next offseason.
Tua got hurt. They were 2-6 when he came back.
But even with him getting hurt, like the offense before he got hurt and after he got hurt, the offense just wasn't the same.
They were 1-1 when he got hurt. They were 2-6 when they went 1-5 while he was hurt. And when he came back, they're 2-6. Yeah, and since he came back, they're 4-2.
They were the most explosive offense in the NFL last year.
Oh, it's not perfect. This year's not been good. Tyreek Hill is not as good as he was last year. I don't know what the difference is, but
they just mutually agreed to part ways with Odell Beckham Jr. because Jonnu Smith came in and did more than Odell Beckham ever did as a Dolphin.
Yep.
But I digress. We're up against it. Let's go ahead and get to podcast pick'ems.
Do it.
Last week we both went 2-3, which brings the overall season standings. You're sitting at 41-32. I'm 38-34, and we're going to pick all the college football playoff games this week. And let's start off with the Friday night game. As the number 8 Indiana Hoosiers. By the way, congratulations to their head coach for winning Coach of the Year. First-year head coach takes the Indiana to the playoffs. They travel to South Bend, Indiana to take on the number 5 Notre Dame Fighting Irish, who are a 7-point home favorite here. This game will take place on ABC ESPN. You'll be at a Christmas concert. You won't get to watch this game. Bill, what say you? Who takes this game, or does Indiana find a way to cover the spread?
I feel like if there's anything we don't know anything about, if there's any game we feel like we don't know anything about, this is that game, because both of these teams played really weak schedules. So who are they really? Notre Dame had one really nice win against Texas A&M in the first game of the season. Other than that, they played
the service academies.
Yeah, that's it. Indiana played nobody, literally nobody, and then got destroyed. Well, let's say destroyed. I think 31-14 against Ohio State. So we don't know.
That's a beatdown.
But we just don't know. I got to take Notre Dame just because I think their recruiting classes are better, and that it means they have more talent.
Josiah Tolles over on YouTube says Irish by 14. Sorry, didn't mean to click that. Bill, you said you're taking Notre Dame. I'm going to take Indiana. I think that they're better than Northern Illinois.
Oh my gosh!
Despite going on the road, listen, I'm taking them to at least cover, and I think Indiana's got a point to prove. I don't think Notre Dame is all that good, and so I like Indiana in this game, so I'm taking them in the first upset of the college football playoff season. The next game takes place on Saturday. This is a noon kickoff over on TNT. That's right. You heard it right. Over on TNT. So we're not going to get the game because on Fubo, they don't carry TNT. This is something that I just discovered literally 2 seconds ago in my head.
Sorry.
As number 10 SMU travels to number 4 Penn State, I might take like a free trial on YouTube TV just to catch the college football playoff and cancel it right after I watch the games. SMU, number 10 in the country, take on Penn State. Penn State,
we jumped over the Texas Clemson game. What are we doing? Is this the one we're talking about? It's the
no.
That's the
so
one. Okay.
Yeah. But no. When I gave you the order of them, I got them out of order based on time.
Is that what you broke it? I got it. Okay.
Yeah. I broke it.
What are you doing, Ryan?
Oh, I biffed it. Michelle says nice sweaters. Thank you, Michelle. Yeah, I biffed it. So we went out of order from.
It actually has the logo somewhere. There it is.
There it is. Beaver Stadium, University Park, Pennsylvania. Penn State 8.5-point home favorite. I hate to say this because I really want SMU to pull the upset. Give me Penn State. I don't think SMU is going to be able to keep up on the road. Give me Penn State. Bill, what say you?
Yeah, I think I agree with that. I just think on the road in Beaver Stadium.
Valley. Yeah.
No, Beaver Stadium, which makes zero. Never mind. It just makes zero sense that they play the Nittany Lions playing Beaver
Stadium.
Anyway, are they doing a whiteout?
I would imagine so.
I hope so.
Yeah.
That'll be fun. Anyway, I won't be able to watch it because it's on TNT. But yeah, I think Penn State's going to win that game.
I can't believe you convinced me to get Fubo, and I'm not going to get these games.
It's great, other than it doesn't have TBS or TNT.
Especially because when after football season, I'm canceling Fubo and I'm going to something like.
You have to admit, you get to watch more football on Fubo than on any other streaming service.
I know. I'll go to what's the Sling TV because at least they have TNT and CBS, so I can watch the NCAA tournament. The next game this weekend is another Saturday game, a 4:00 kickoff over on TNT. As the number 16 Clemson Tigers, who backed their way into the playoff after winning the ACC championship over the aforementioned SMU, takes on the number 3 Texas Longhorns. Texas, I think this is the biggest spread of the weekend, a 12-point home favorite against Clemson. Bill, what say you? Can Clemson cover this 12-point spread?
Hook 'em horns, baby. They're going to crush Clemson. This is going to be bad.
I'm halfway rooting for Clemson only because we beat Clemson in the last game of the regular season, and I think it should have propelled us higher in the polls. But I think Texas wins this game, and they win it big. You
remember what Texas did with Georgia, right? That was both 2 fairly close games. Do you remember the Clemson-Georgia game? Because they want to forget it.
That's
I know
fair.
It was early. Yeah.
Trey Toll says Texas by 21. The last game in college that we're going to talk about this weekend is the 8:00 game. We'll get to watch this one over on ABC and ESPN. The probably the best game of the weekend, the most intriguing game of the weekend, as the number 7 Tennessee Volunteers travel up to Ohio State and take on the number 6 Buckeyes. Ohio State is a 7.5-point favorite, 8:00 kickoff. Bill, what say you? Tennessee at Ohio State.
I kept saying for weeks that I thought Ohio State was the best team in the country. I thought after that game at Oregon, losing by less than a field goal, and then they laid a big, ugly egg against Michigan, and that one really, really has baffled me. I still don't think Tennessee is all that good. By the way, did you see that they renamed the Ohio State Stadium on Apple Maps? The Tennessee fans did.
No,
they named it Neyland North on Apple Maps. And Apple Maps actually did the edit. It says Neyland North instead of whatever it's called. It's funny. Anyway, good trolling, Tennessee fans.
Fantastic.
Bad news is I think Ohio State's a better team. I think they win this game.
It's funny you mentioned that because I don't. First of all, Trey Tolles says Tennessee by 14. That's a big prediction. Ohio State probably has a point to prove after losing to Michigan and missing out on the Big Ten championship game. But I think that they're probably happy that they got one less game under their belt, like the Tennessee Volunteers do, after not having to play for the SEC championship. But I feel like Tennessee is built for games like this. And despite being an 8:00 game at Ohio State, I think Tennessee is going to be able to go in and pull off the upset. I don't think they make it past this round, but I do think they get the win over Ohio State on Saturday night. The only game in the NFL that we're picking this week is probably the most impactful game of the weekend because like the NFC East is not decided yet. And the Philadelphia Eagles are a 3.5-point road favorite against the Washington Commanders. A 1:00 kickoff on Fox. The other reason why I want to mention that game is because the Carolina Panthers played the Arizona Cardinals. If Shannon Smith is still in the chat, I'm sorry because I sort of went off on this on the Cat Cave. But the local game for the Carolinas is going to be Arizona and Carolina instead of the game of the week between the Eagles and the Commanders. And I like the Commanders to get the upset. Like it's that time of year where anything can really happen. And Washington is looking to keep pace and make the playoffs. And again, they still got an outside shot to win the division. Give me the Commanders to pull the upset this weekend at home against your best team in football, the Philadelphia Eagles. Bill, what say you?
You're like, oh, hey, who's the best team in football? Let's pick them this week. I honestly think the Eagles are going to win this game. I do. I just think they're just too dangerous right now, and I don't think that the Commanders are good enough as a whole to win this game. The last time they played, granted, it was in Philadelphia. The Commanders' loss was 26-18, and I don't think they're going to get the 8 points any better this week. So, they'd have to get 9 points better. I don't feel it. So I think the Eagles pull it off.
Well, nevertheless, that's the show. I didn't think we were going to go overtime, but we did tonight.
Overtime.
Bill, we are not going to have a show next week because if you've been living under a rock, next Wednesday is Christmas. And so we're not going to take away time from our family to do a podcast, and we don't expect anybody to join us on a Christmas episode. So this will be the last show for a couple of weeks. And then the following weekend or the following week, I believe, is New Year's. So we might have to figure out a day where it's not a Wednesday and we get to come in and talk football, because it's also that time of the year where they start doing Saturday NFL games. So maybe we're able to talk on like a Monday or Tuesday one week. But it might be the last show for a couple of weeks because it's the holiday season. That's what happens. Anything that you want to leave the audience with before we sign off tonight?
Just Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays. Enjoy until you see us again, I guess. It's kind of we don't know when that's going to be yet. So just have a good time. Enjoy it with your family. And remember, I hate to say this, I've had a lot of stuff going on. Always cherish the moments. Let's just say it that way. Make sure you're in the moment, you're present in the moment, and have a good time.
You're welcome for the reprieve of not having to look at these faces for the next 2 weeks. You're welcome.
100% true.
As Bill said, Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, potentially Happy New Year in case we don't come on for that time either. But wherever you go, be safe in your travels and do right by the people that do right by you. Enjoy the time that you get to spend with your friends and family during the holiday season. First of all, thanks to everybody who joined the show tonight, whether it was Facebook or YouTube or the brief few minutes that we were on Instagram before it tried to kill my feed. If you haven't already done so, make sure you go follow this podcast on our social media, facebook.com/tapouts and touchdowns, over on X at tapouts and TDs, on YouTube at tapouts and touchdowns, and on Instagram, I am at Ryan Frick Comedy. So once again, thanks. There's a lot of people in the chat. A couple of people watched basically for the entire show. We want to thank you for being part of the show. Thank you for hanging on with us. And yeah, I'm sure we'll post on social media when we will be back. But when we've still got all the rest of the college football playoffs, we got college football bowl games. Like South Carolina plays on New Year's Eve. So I want to talk about it on the podcast before we get to the Indiana game in the Citrus Bowl. There's a lot of stuff coming up. So we'll have to talk about it off air. But enjoy the time you get away from us. We will figure something out. And if we don't, then I don't know, maybe I'll just come in monologue for a while because I got nothing better to do. Nevertheless, thanks to everybody who's a part of the show tonight. Thanks for everybody who tuned in, and we'll see you next time right here on Tap House and Touchdowns.